Hey everybody, it's Denise. Welcome to Cosmic Connections. And today we're going to talk about why Bernie Sanders and why now. Well, first we'll start about Bernie as a person. We'll start with his chart. Bernie is a Virgo. A Virgo is a mutable earth sign. Virgos are known to be the hardest workers in the universe. They're also ruled by Mercury, which is very analytical. Mercury is the planet of communication. And they're also known to be perfectionists or kind of picky. So they're really good at analyzing and picking apart and being very logical and concrete in the way they look at things and the way they act. The other cool thing about Bernie being a Virgo is Virgo rules the 6th house of service. So they're very service oriented. Mother Teresa was a Virgo. And they're also very much about health. So there's a lot of doctors that are Virgos. So it's very clear that it shows up in his platform. Another thing about Virgos is they're very simple, minimal, and they like the basics. So as you can see from the sign, a future to believe in. It's not glitzy, it's glamour, it's just the message, it's very clear. The other interesting thing is that in the zodiac, each sign is followed by a sign that learned from the first sign. So for example, Leo comes before Virgo, which is kind of interesting because we have a Leo president right now. And he was very much about the concept of hope. He gave everybody warm, fuzzy feelings, right? Well, now people are really ready for real change. And so now it's time for the Virgo who can get down to work and lay out a detailed plan for how we are going to really change our world. Another thing about Virgos is they're a mutable sign, and mutable means flexible. So as you can see, Bernie was an independent for most of his career, but as he saw, the most practical way to really gain the presidency was to join the Democratic Party. Some people will give him flack for that, but I think it was very much a practical reason. Okay, moving right along. What we would typically talk about is someone's rising sign, the way they appear on the outside, their persona, but because we don't have an exact confirmed birth time, we won't start with the ascendant, and we'll move right into the moon. Bernie's moon is in Aries. Aries is a cardinal fire sign. It is passionate. It is a warrior. It's very clear that you can tell he truly, truly believes and is willing to do battle for the things he holds most dear to his heart. So it's really perfect that his tagline is feeling the burn, because really he emotionally is a fire sign. So when you see that little emblem, a lot of times I use the emoticon of the little flame. He really feels the burn. We're feeling the burn. We really feel his warrior, emotion. So he's there to do battle and win, for us. The next part of his chart that we're going to talk about is Mercury in Libra. And I think it's something that everyone across the board can agree on, that he's very diplomatic, that he's very good at listening. Mercury in Libra is represented by the scales. Libra is an air sign, and it's very much about peace and harmony and partnership and getting along and advocating. So everything that he says is in a spirit, or he tries to. Of course, he's going to be defending himself when he needs to, but most of the time he doesn't use any of his Aries energy to attack. He uses Mercury in Libra to find common ground and for peaceful solutions, and his analytical ability to balance what's going on. It's imbalanced, 1%, 99%. And so for him, it's very much a crusade about striking a balance. Another character trait that people have remarked on about Bernie is the fact that he's very consistent. And the way I see it is that shows through very much in his chart, because his Mercury, the way he communicates, is in Libra, and so is his Venus in Libra. And Venus is about relationships and the things you value. So he very much feels in sync. The cool thing about Venus in Libra is that Libra is about self and then other. When you see the scales, it's about balancing self and other. So he very much understands what it's like. He has the ability to understand what it's like to be in your shoes, even if he hasn't lived your life. He very much understands the plight of the middle class. It also helps that he grew up, in a time, without a lot of means. So he very much is able, just even in his own personal life, to understand it. But even if he wasn't, he's able to understand what's going on in people's lives. The other big thing about having Venus in Libra is this desire, because Venus is about your desire. His desire is for justice and for peace. When you see the scales, it's very much about balancing things out. And so one of the biggest things he talks about is not just economic equality. He talks about economic justice, which is a very different concept. And so the way he talks, he really expresses the way he really feels about things. And so I think that is why people have been able to trust him and feel like he's very consistent. And then moving from Venus into Mars, we're back to that warrior energy again. Mars helps you activate your sun. So here's a very down-to-earth person who's very humble, but he's got this engine, this warrior engine underneath him that helps to motivate him to get the things that he wants to get done. It's a tireless type of energy. Mars loves being in Aries. It's ruled by Aries, and so it's very much at home there. And so that constant warrior, the ability to have the same consistent message and to fight this fight for over 40 years for the common person and for his democratic socialist ideas is very clear in his chart right there. Another remarkable thing about his candidacy is his ability to connect with the young voters. One of the other cool things in his chart that shows that his ability to do so is Jupiter, which is the house that rules the house, the ninth house, of higher education, beliefs, travel, religion, all those big belief systems, is in Gemini, which is a very ruled by Mercury, which is a very good communicative sign. So his ability to communicate those high ideals. He just said on Colbert the other night that, you know, young people are idealistic, and he's absolutely able to say exactly what every idealistic person is thinking is, why can't it be better? And so he's very much has that optimistic, big Jupiter energy in a communicative planet, which is his ability to actually get that point across in a believable fashion. Another cool thing is that his Saturn is in Taurus. Okay, so Saturn is about structure, and Taurus is all about emotional and financial security. It is an earth sign, and it very much does not feel secure unless your bases are covered. So you very much hear him talk about the fact that people just need the basics. They need food, they need jobs, they need healthcare, they need education. So he's very much about, again, those practical things. And that Saturn in Taurus always has that lifelong feeling of needing to provide those things for themselves and their families. Another thing is that his Uranus, which is a very progressive outer planet, all the planets go this way, but Uranus goes this way. And it's what pushes us forward to break out of our habits. His Uranus is also in Gemini. So again, Gemini, that ability to communicate these progressive, forward-thinking ideas that people think are crazy, which really, they're universal. And that's another thing that Uranus represents, is the 11th house, the universality of all of us. It's very humanitarian and brings us all together. Bernie also has two more planets in his chart that are in Virgo. One is Neptune in Virgo, and Neptune is your spirituality. And so having Neptune in Virgo is basically showing the things that you care about in your spirituality in a concrete manner. And so he talked about the other day about what is the spirituality about, and he fundamentally believes that we're all connected. And it's very clear when he talks about climate change, about how we are all sharing this planet together. We're all connected. And so his spirituality comes in the form of nature and all the things which an earth sign would feel, and health. And all those things are tied together, and by caring for each other in a concrete manner. And finally, his North Node, his destiny. The North Node is all about learning in this lifetime things that you didn't learn in the past. And so this lifetime, he's very much learning about taking care of business in a very practical, down-to-earth manner. He's very much about service. Actually bring those spiritual principles to life in this lifetime. And as you can see, it's taken his whole life. He has battled, 4 decades or whatever to get to this point in his career to fundamentally achieve his purpose. So let's enlarge this conversation to why now? Why is this happening? So let's backpedal a little bit about the outer planets. Right now, Pluto is in Capricorn. Pluto is all about transformation. Capricorn is all about structure. And as you can see, things have gotten corrupt and things need to be transformed. These structures, these governmental structures need to be changed so that they work for everybody. This structure is not stable. It's unsustainable. You can't have 1% with all the wealth and then 99%. It's unstable. So it needs to be corrected. So we need to transform that structure. And the last time that Pluto was in Capricorn was during the American and French revolutions, when very similar things were happening. Taxation without representation, and people in France, with, Marie Antoinette, the peasants, let them eat cake, all those things. These are similar things that are happening now in our culture. And so things come in cycles. That's what astrology is all about, is studying those cycles, historically, financially, all those things. And so that time is now. And clearly, Barney's got his finger on the pulse. He's clearly starting a political revolution. He says it over and over and over again. This isn't just a campaign, it's a political revolution. And who better than someone who grew up in the 60s and 70s, who was part of, the revolution, to lead it now. One last point that I'd like to make, that I make a lot, that I really like to think about, is the fact that right now Jupiter is also in Virgo. And Jupiter, we talked about before, is about the things you value: higher education, travel, your religious and social beliefs, in Virgo, which is that concrete thing. And so when I see that in someone's chart, I say, you know, you're really lucky, because it's now you have the energy to make your dreams, your beliefs, come true. By doing those nitpicky, detailed things, you know, sending that email, making that phone call, creating time in your schedule, making things a priority to make your dreams come true so they're not just pie in the sky. And we very much can see that over the last 8 years. Those ideas, people are a little frustrated because they haven't come to fruition. Well, now it's time to get down and dirty and to actually do the things that we need to do to make our ideas and our dreams come true. And so it's very fortunate, and I think this is why there's so many Virgos in the race, that we have someone who is ready to do that, and someone for whom that is their nature, is to lay out a plan and systematically cover all the bases for everyone. And then one other point about Jupiter and Virgo, and I think this points to the fact that there are so many young voters that are really all about Bernie. The 24-year-olds today were born with Jupiter and Virgo, and when they were 12 and they were trying to figure out who they wanted to be when they grew up, their Jupiter returned to Virgo. And now it's 12 years later. They've gone to college, they're ready to get out in the world and make a difference, and Jupiter's in Virgo again. And they're also ready to vote. They're also ready to see the dreams and ideals that they have learned about come to fruition with a candidate who feels the same way as them.